Welcome to another episode of the Loadout Music Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with a wide range of music personalities, from rock and roll Hall of Famers to Grammy winners and today's rising stars. Recorded from the Old Rock House in St. Louis, Missouri, here's your host, Aaron Perlott.
Welcome back to the Loadout Music Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Aaron Perlott, and today we are joined by blues rock guitar great Joe Bonamassa, who started his career at age 12 opening for B.B. King and has since been nominated for 3 Grammys, had the #1 position on the Billboard Blues Chart 26 times. He has a new single out, a live concert film, an album shot at Red Rocks in Colorado. And by the time this episode airs, we'll have released a much anticipated new studio album. Joe, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks. The description makes me sound a lot busier than I actually am.
Actually, that is not true. I spend a lot of time poring over reams of data before I do these interviews, and you got a lot going on, man. You
Yeah, it's a lot, but it takes a village. It's not just me. And I've been lucky enough. I've had the same people around me, well, especially my manager, from over 30 years. And the people that are in my inner circle and stuff like that, that came on 20 years ago are still around. So they mitigate some of the stuff, like, I just got a notification my cell phone bill is paid. Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't do that. Somebody else did that.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed that real life doesn't slap me in the face, or my credit score in the face, because I would be overwhelmed, but it's a Cadillac problem, I guess.
Does it I was curious, does it ever, we're all multidimensional people.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever people introduce you, they introduce you as a guitar great or a guitar god, and you are, so much more than a guitarist. You're an accomplished songwriter, you're a great vocalist, you're a great performer, and you're a music industry executive these days. So does that ever, do you ever get like, oh, okay, great, I play guitar and I'm well known for that, but I do a lot more than that? Does that ever bother you at all?
No. In the same sentence, I could when people go, hey, do you ever get tired of playing the ballad of John Henry or Slow J? No, that's what put you on the map.
Yeah.
I'll never understand artists that public opine about, like, I'm so sick of playing this hit song or something. I've never had a big hit. I've had songs that are known, but I never had a big hit. It's like, man, if I had your catalog, and I guess the grass is always greener, but for me, being a guitar player, it's built the whole thing. I started playing guitar in my little bedroom when I was 4 years old, and this entire thing has been built off of those experiences and being known as a guitarist. And I remember when B.B. King died, that I was reading articles about it and stuff like that, and I remember just seeing article after article. Blues guitarist B.B. King dies, and they're like, he was one of the greatest singers of all time. When Frank Sinatra is a huge fan of your vocals, you're a great singer. You know what I mean? But it's just how you get typecast. It's like they say that about Clapton. It'll be like guitarist Eric Clapton. Well, he's a fantastic singer. He's a fantastic songwriter. You know what I mean? So I just check that at the door. As long as you know me, I'm good.
It's funny what you're saying about having to play songs for so many years, because my friend Ray Wiley Hubbard has been on this program. He always talks about, when he's going to write a song, said, be sure that you're going to be comfortable playing that for the next 25 years.
Mm-hmm. God forbid it takes off, and you don't know the ones that are going to be popular versus the ones like you can write something and be like, oh my God, our fans are going to just eat this up. They'll be standing ovation, blah, blah, blah. And it comes out and it lies flat. You play it live. Nobody cares. You're like, wow, did I misjudge? And then there's ones that you go, I don't even want to put this thing on the record. I'm so embarrassed by it. You end up putting it on the record, and that becomes like the standout song of the album. You're like, I don't get it,
Yeah, I've had songs that I've written that I thought, I was like, all right, people are going to love this song. And then we go play them out, and it's not what you thought.
No,
It's like,
no,
oh,
your
I guess
mind,
that's
standing
tough.
ovation. It's Frampton Comes Alive, and stadium has got they got the cigarette lighters or the cell phones waving. Dead crickets, you know.
I'm curious, you seem like you're pretty grounded. And I read this quote that I'm sure you've seen 100 times when, Guitar World called you the world's biggest blues guitarist. And they definitely weren't talking about your waistline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that the kind of thing where you're like, it's one part, inside your head, you're like, kind of ridiculous. It's kind of humbling. It's pretty amazing. All the above.
It's a testament to the fans, and it's a testament to the fans, and it's in somewhat of a case, like, should be a wake-up call to the detractors, because the ones that come online and want to say what they want to say about me. I always say, listen, I hear you, but somebody likes this stuff, and they like it enough to have been able to sustain this thing 35 years. So whether it's your cup of tea or not, you don't belittle the ones that do like it. I remember having this exact conversation with a very popular front guy from a very popular band that is somewhat a bit polarizing, whether you like them or not. And he, over a martini was kind of saying, I don't, real musicians like you don't respect me. I'm like, listen, I respect anybody who gets in the game and becomes successful. And I said, let me ask you a question. I go, your arenas are full. He goes, oh yeah, every night. I go, somebody likes this. So get it out of your head. We're not all musicians are going to be as well respected as Charles Mingus. Okay. But you can still go out there and entertain people and have fun.
Yeah. It reminds me, I've been catching back up with my absolute favorite book from the 80s called Psychotic Reaction and Carburetor Dung from Lester Bangs, the late critic from Rolling Stone and Cream. And he had this quote in it. It said, I was rereading it the other day. It said, power doesn't go to the people, it comes from them. So, I might dislike Florida Georgia Line and think that the mixture of rap and country is ridiculous, but they've got millions and millions of dollars and fans that are representative. Someone loves it.
Somebody loves it, and I have my issues with modern country. I think it's power pop from the 80s with pedal steel, and because you sometimes, if you not that I'm around Nashville, I happen to be in Nashville now, but I'm not around here much. But you'll get these like call sheets, like looking for a hit song with meaning. Well, that's a contradiction in terms, must be heartfelt and about family and truck, but a hit, it's just like, at that point you just go, is this a factory? Or it's like, and other, artists fighting over songs, that are kind of in town, putting reserving songs. It's like, just why don't you write your own stuff, that I don't get. But again, it's a popular art form and people love it, and you can't discard that. You just have to embrace it. I mean, the Milli Vanilli had a lot of fans, and
Yeah.
so did the Bay City Rollers. They were a great band. People loved them. They got dismissed as being teen pop idols, but people love them.
Yeah. I know that I think it's interesting in that you seem to be a real purist though in your art. And I found it fascinating to me that you've talked a lot about how you've been largely influenced by British and Irish blues greats, the Paul Kossoffs of the world, Peter Greens, John Mayall, Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
A lot of them, though, at one point or another, they veered out of the blues lane for whatever reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You've seemingly, despite them, being kind of your North Star and guiding you, you've really it seems like been a true purist throughout your entire career and really stuck with the blues rock lane.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Is because like when Eric Clapton and John Mayall teamed up and they made the Beano record, okay, that was a knee-jerk reaction to Eric being in a pop band. He didn't want to do that anymore. The next thing you know, it's because he's playing it. Now that's the popular music. Okay. And, this whole British blues boom of the late 60s, where you have the Jeff Beck group, Led Zeppelin, Alexis Corner, Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, Yardbirds, all the above, pre Rory Gallagher, pre Gary Moore. And you have bands like Free and they're playing blues. So you have all this, but when that blues boom kind of plateaued, they were still around, so they needed radio play. So Free became Bad Company, and they had all those pop hits. Clapton made Layla, and those were hit songs, and then they kind of morphed into what they were in the 80s, which I think all of it was good. And so you kind of like see people chasing radio, where in my case, radio has never been on the table. It's like, how am I gonna, like the new Joe Bonamassa single just dropped. So, okay, the new Justin Bieber single just dropped. Oh, okay, I'll play that. Radio's never played me, and I think that's part of my success in a weird, freeing way, because like if you don't have any, if you're not like, because it drives people mental to go, we need a hit. Oh my God, we just had the feel good hit of the summer. You see this stuff in Nashville all the time. Everybody's just trying to get that hit again so they can keep touring and keep the machine going. I don't have any of that. I want to work this year. I don't want to work this. It's like, okay, I have a niche market that I built brick by brick and block by block.
Well, and the record industry has evolved so much in that today, it used to be you really made money off records, and you can still if you own your publishing to a degree. But it's now that records have become an excuse to go hit the road, where you're actually, as a performer, hopefully going to earn a living. Yeah,
well, and there's you need some new music to keep the fans entertained.
Yeah.
I always tell people that like artists that sell CDs, that's a big part of the artist's income, especially at a certain level, is you're out in the lobby selling CDs to fans after the show, and you just sit there, step and repeat. Pro tip: you want to get cellophane off a CD real fast? Use a guitar pick. I used to do it all the time, and I tell the artists now, I said, unfortunately, that CD has just become a widget, because chances are that CD that you're selling to that fan in the lobby does not have a CD player in that person's home to be played on. So it just becomes a shelf. It's on the shelf or part of their memorabilia collection. And so the record industry has really become a problem for artists, because there really is no money in it, unless you, like you say, you own your own publishing and you own your own master recordings. Streaming does generate money if you have enough titles in the system, and you can get enough streams per month. There is money in it. Is it real money compared to what it used to be? Absolutely not. But if you have enough titles in the system, there's a living to be made. Most artists don't own 50 titles like I do. I own 50 master recordings of everything that I've ever done, and except for my first album for EMI, which kind of slipped through the cracks. But regardless of that, it does generate income, it does pay bills, but not in the, compared to how many streams there is, what the payout is very, very little.
Yeah. So you and I were kidding around earlier about having a lot of irons in the fire, but I do want to kind of touch on some of these things you've got going on. First, we got to go back to Tales of Time, because it was, yet another #1 album for you. But you and your longtime collaborator Kevin Shirley produced this. Can you just talk a little bit about that record and kind of what it meant to you?
Pardon me. I will say this: the Time Clocks record was what Tales of Time is based on. It was basically did our studio record in order. Was, to be honest with you, it was the most ambitious production we ever, because we rented these $1 million screens behind us. Most of the times my fans, they like a good light show. They're not going to see the wall. Okay. They want to just listen to, they just want to hear me play guitar. So you just, know that. But we had to have content for them, because you can rent the screens all day long. If you had nothing to put up there, then you might as well just put on the tennis match or NFL game day, and maybe the fans will be more entertained by that than you. But we had all this content, we had all this stuff that goes along with the songs, and when we put it out and we did it at Red Rocks, it really played larger than life. And we it was really a good a good concert. So, and I'm really happy that that it came out so good, and people were again, it's doing well. So
yeah. And Red Rocks is I'm actually going there tonight to see a couple artists. It's such a exceptional experience for people who haven't had a chance to ever see music played there.
It's an entity in all itself, meaning it's like a Royal Albert Hall type of venue where it's bigger than anybody that could play there, And the thing that surprises me about Red Rocks is the sheer volume of shows that they run through that market, meaning like there's not a week goes by in that season where there's 6 shows, maybe 7 shows. It's like night after night, boom, 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 boom. And that's a lot of tickets to sell.
And yet somehow they move them.
Yeah, because people want to go there, and those artists that play there, me included, if you talk to the fans outside of the trading post, where the buses park, and you're like, where are you from? I'm from Nebraska, but my dream was to see you here at Red Rocks. I'm like, okay, I get why this works.
Yeah. So I know you've also got, and by the time this airs, this record will be out. This is your new studio album, Blues Deluxe Volume 2, which really celebrates the 20th anniversary of your best-selling independent release, Blues Deluxe.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to go back and revisit this and really put a new spin on it completely?
Well, what we did was, because we were going to maybe do a remastered, remixed version of it for the 20th anniversary. But then I said, I'm going to ask myself a question. The question is have I progressed at all in 20 years? So my friend and bandmate Josh Smith and I got together, and Josh Smith produced the record, and we just dared to ask the question, like, have I evolved as an artist? And I was prepared to get no, you haven't, you've gotten worse, or but I figured out that I become a better singer, a better deliverer of song, and a more deliberate guitar player, as opposed to just kind of whittly my way through life. And it was a really fun experience and a joyful record to make, because I was kind of being validated in my own mind that my hunch was correct, that I become a better musician by default, over the years, versus kind of just resting on your laurels. Because sometimes people peak when they're 25, and then it's just a slow, steady decline. I think my best years are yet to come, based on this experience of recording the record, at least musically, and the ability to deliver a song. I get things now that I couldn't conceptualize 20 years ago. So now we have 2 CDs. We have the remastered Blues Deluxe, and then we have a whole new group of songs that will be coming out, and we're kind of slowly doling them out live now. But it's out in October, so it's I'm excited for people to hear it.
Yeah, I remember when this must have been 20 years ago or so, Neil Diamond put out a record called 12 Songs, and he was being interviewed, and he's like, I couldn't write songs when I was a kid, when I was churning out hits in my 20s and the 60s, like I can write. I'm so much better of a songwriter today at this age.
Yeah.
And that was obviously before he got sick. But still, I think it speaks to your point about, the progression of your career, your musicianship, your musicality. It evolves, especially as you're playing every night with a group of guys.
Yeah, I mean, since I did Blues Deluxe, I've probably done 2,000 shows, 30 records. You know what I mean? It's like, or more, because that was my third album. I got 45 records out. Yeah, I mean, I've done 40 something albums. And, I'll say this, and I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man for just a sec, is the 10,000 hour concept is something I subscribe to day in and day out. You could tell people they've had 10,000 hours. You see people that have had 10,000 hours on stage. I feel like I'm on my second set of 10,000 hours. This notion, and like you're saying, it's like when Neil Diamond was having all the hits, he was just writing songs because he needed to write songs. And then he figured out he was happy when he figured out he was happy with his writing, and that takes 10,000 hours. The thing that I really don't get is when experience and years in the game get dismissed because you happen to be in your 40s and 50s. That I don't understand, because those are the people that have, to me, all of the tools coalescing at the same time. Yeah, youth and vigor and cluelessness is a great thing. I had it, everybody had it, but I couldn't, I couldn't write a song. I couldn't put a guitar phrase together. I just had this unwavering, blind confidence in myself, and that luckily enough carried me through the day. Now not that I know what to do. More importantly, I know what not to do.
You think that's a product of just kind of the fickle nature of the listening public, and that they've been like, I've seen, to your point, I've seen acts that have put out, maybe their debut album will be great, and it'll be all over the place. And then their second or third album comes out and people are tired of them. It's not that the material's not good, but they almost tune them out. And I find this, it's particularly in the US, there seems to be this fickle nature of the listening public. They're ready to move on to something else, like this ADHD mentality in listening to music.
Yeah, I also think people like to root for the underdog, and the underdog syndrome, I call it. It's like when an artist or a band is ascending and everybody's going, yeah, this is so good. This kid came out of Peoria, Illinois, and it's rags to riches story. One picture of him with his Ferrari, it's over. They stop rooting for you. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, who do you think you're a big shot now? It's a natural kind of thing. Plus, I also think too, when someone's on the forefront of a new changing musical, sound, or it becomes overexposed. Extreme. I mean, especially now, it's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like social media, TV, this, that. You're on every television program. You're on everybody's, Instagram feed. And people will become fatigued by it.
Yeah. Does it? Obviously, we've talked a lot about the evolution of the industry. Does it drive you nuts the way that, in this digital world, how there's a new way of releasing music, in terms of, you might have a record, but it's all about these singles and algorithms that are driving the signals. Mm-hmm. Whereas an album used to be representative of, it was a thing, not necessarily a concept record, but it still was a concept, that something you were trying to deliver as a package. I find that disappointing. I'm curious how you feel about it.
I think there's pros and cons. Like when I first got in the business, this is how your success was. You can make or break your success. Okay. You were going to release a record. Okay. There was no social media. There was no free marketing opportunities. Everything was bought and paid for, from the radio to the it used to be, if you're on a major label, they would tell you could tell how much your label was into you by the size of the ad that they would buy in R&R, in SoundScan magazine. Okay. And if you had a little square box in the corner of a page, like I did when I was on Sony Music, you're fucked. Okay. I don't know if I can swear on this, but you're fucked. You bleep me out. But anyway, so at that point, you really could not determine your own destiny as easy as you can today. Now, I know people that have used Instagram and have built an empire for free, because they knew how to market themselves, and it caught on. When you're releasing music, so that's the pro of social media. Here's the con. The cons are, you're basically in the singles business. You're basically in the what have you done for me lately business, and you're basically in the free sample business. That's it. You're doling out free samples, hoping that people will watch. Now, people do monetize stuff on YouTube that do very well, but I know people that have millions and millions of millions of followers. That doesn't translate to hard tickets. Yeah. Hard tickets are, people know that you're coming into town. They go on whatever ticket buying site, they buy the ticket. They're not given a ticket. They're not invited. They're not on the guest list. Those are what they call hard tickets. And it doesn't translate into the hard ticket business, which is really the last avenue of monetization in the music business, is being able to go out there and sell tickets. So there are some pros and there are some cons in it. And then don't get me started about the running order of records, because the sequence of the record is so important, but nobody cares. It's all whacked up into playlists, whatever.
So I know, I guess it was about 20 years ago, you and Roy Wiseman started your own label, but that's now evolved into Journeyman, which is really a full service artist management endeavor, along with the record piece of it. And I know, you've had bands like Robert John on the Wreck, who we had Robert John on the show, that have been part of that. But talk about the evolution of that, and why you're spending time doing that.
Well, basically, I always say, if I can do it, anybody can. But when we were coming up and figuring this thing out, and we went from an independent artist to a total vertical integration, like within 7 years. We went from putting out our first record to promoting all of our shows within a decade. I don't have a booking agent. So like, call Joe's agent. I don't have one, and we've been able to vertically integrate the merchandise, the record, the touring, all the places where money gets left on the table for artists. It's like, so we're working Joanne Shaw Taylor and Robert John on the Wreck, and one of the things that really help the live ticket business is if you actually have a promoter or someone who's actually has a vested interest in seeing that act do well, as opposed to just lobbing it into the ether, throwing their name onto a strip ad in the Nashville scene or LA Weekly. I'm showing my age. They're no longer in business, but you know what I mean. It's like the local rag. And then, if they play on a Tuesday and didn't sell as well as they did on the previous Friday, our guarantees are going to go down, and it's just a death spiral, And especially if you have an artist that had some heat and had the power of the machine behind him, and then the machine moves on. And so this Journeyman thing is really a proof of concept, where trying to vertically integrate these artists' business to become really hit the apex curve of being independent, where you're not reliant on anyone other than yourself and your work ethic. And that's how I've lived my life for 20 years.
Yeah, and I know you've developed a cruise as well, Keeping Blues Alive. Is that driven by Journeyman, or is that just something you're involved in as well?
Oh, it's 10 years old now.
Yeah.
And it's for our charity, Keeping the Blues
Yeah.
Alive, or 501c3. And we give away money to schools for music programs and stuff like that. And during the pandemic, we raised almost $1 million through our these kind of telethons, streamathons. A lot of our artists were nice enough to donate tracks, and we raised almost $1 million, and we gave it all away to artists who needed money because they couldn't work.
Yeah.
And you would think raising money for kids in schools for music would be a no-brainer and easy to do. That's wrong. It's hard. So these cruises kind of are a good way to make to raise money for this foundation in a timely manner, in the sense that everybody wins. You get a great 5 day of entertainment, that we pay our artists really well. And the fans love the interactions with the artists and the collaborations that happen on the boat, and we raise money for a good cause. I don't see any, I can only see win-win. So we've been doing these for 10 years, and we've done 13 of them. From August will be 13 cruises. We're skipping the second cruise next year because of a logistical thing, because there's only 2 boats that Norwegian can do these themed cruises on, neither of which are going to be in the Mediterranean. So we're only doing 1 next year, but then in 2025 we're going to go back to doing 2. So it's fun. It's a great week for me to see y'all, the smiling faces and the music that happens. But it's a busy week for me. But I call it a good tired.
Yeah, and I know you've raised more than $2 million. You've supported, I think, almost 100,000 students through this. So it's it's really ballooned into something.
Well, if you ask me, when I was 20 years old, moving to New York City, would someday, 25 years from now, or 26 years, in 26 years, you've already would have raised $2 million for Keeping the Blues Alive foundation that you founded. I'm like, I wouldn't even have thought I made $2 million in 25 years. I mean, it's kind of like manifest destiny stuff, and really thrilled, with the results, but it's a lot of hard work. I work harder now than I did when I was 20. It's just by sheer obligation and drive, I guess.
Sheer obligation and drive. We've all experienced. Joe Bonamassa, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you very much for having us, and thank you for supporting Robert John and the Wreck and our artists. And it's very nice of you. So,
real privilege to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.